Good to see you. See you after a while. Bless you. Amen. Wow. If you would, go ahead and be seated. We're going to get started. Some things I'm going to share, I just kind of took time today and I just kind of been writing some things and well, the Lord take us with it, we'll go there, but we're going to just kind of give it to you so you'll be able to get it, and hopefully you have something to write with, and you can just kind of jot a few of them down. Amen. Someone lost a set of keys that has a Planet Fitness thing on it. I guess it's a made key. I can't tell you what kind of key it is, but this is what it looks like. Someone lost a set of keys in the back. Charles? Okay. Thank you. I want to take a look today at Genesis chapter 18. In Genesis 18. I'm going to start reading at verse 11 and stop at verse 20. It's going to talk about two things in that passage, but I think we'll be able to make the connection as God give it to us. Genesis chapter 18, verse 11 says, "Now Abraham and Sarah were very old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after me, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, and do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous." Wow, that was a lot, I know. When the Lord said that Abraham was going to become a great nation, and that in him all the families of the earth was going to be blessed. And although God would put nations in him, he couldn't do nothing with it until he put it in the right person. Did you hear that? He had to have somewhere to put what God put in him. Now, as awesome as Mother's Day is, and I want you to just listen, it's interesting that Sodom and Gomorrah is in the passage. Given the course of the world where we live, if Christians don't wake up and understand what's happening in our day and become a voice to it, Mother Day is becoming very extinct. And so is Father's Day. And so is family reunions. Amen. Wow, got kind of quiet, didn't it? You see, Satan is a deceiver. And in Genesis, we read that he deceived 2 whole cities. Not 2 households, 2 whole cities. Amen. I want to read this to you. Look in Genesis chapter 19. This is Mother's Day. It's going to be really encouraging. I'm going to get to the positive part. But I got to tell you this part right here God gave me. Look in Genesis 19, verse 8. Verse 8. Genesis 19, verse 8. It says, behold now, I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. Here was Lot, was talking to the wicked men of the city, and 2 angels, God had sent 2 angels to the city to deliver Lot and his family out of the city. God wanted to deliver the city. But the city have now become so caught up in their belief, in their way of life and their mindset. Amen. And how they do things until the wickedness has now bothered God. When the angels come in, they come in apparently with the appearance of men. With the appearance of men. And when the men of the city saw them, they knocked on Lot's door, came as a group, and said, send the men out, I pray thee. Lot said, listen, I have 2 daughters that have never been with a man. And they says, in so many words, we don't want them. We would rather have the men. Now, when I tell you about Mother's Day, and if men don't want women, then the earth is in trouble. And don't you y'all getting quiet. I got to tell you some good stuff today. Listen here. When men don't want women, then the earth is in trouble. The reproduction process is in trouble. It's interesting that when God is up to something awesome, God will even suspend natural things. God will suspend certain activity in your life when he's up to something supernatural in your life. He don't make God no different how old you are. It don't make God no different what you feel like you hadn't accomplished or what you're lacking in the family that you came up in. If God have chosen to do something supernatural in you, amen, and through you, God will bypass all the laws of the universe to get it done. Amen, amen, amen. Because even God, listen, is not going to bless a nation without a woman. And women, I want to just tell you some good stuff today. I ain't good on preaching days. Anybody know me know I ain't good at it. But I heard from God on this one. I want to tell you some good things. First of all, you need to get a healthy respect for yourselves. You need to raise your standards to God's standards in your life. You need to know that a man should not want you first. You should know he needs you. And he's at a juncture in his life until he can't accomplish nothing without you. Without you. In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22, come on. Proverbs 18, 22. I want you to see something here. There are even things with God that a man cannot get. He can't even access them until he finds the right woman, the wife. So that means even God hold him up to make sure he don't devalue you, to make sure he don't mistreat you, amen, and feel like he don't need you in life. God reserved things with him that a man would never receive. Y'all quiet. They quiet. I want to talk to some folk who going to grab a hold to it. Listen. God protects you. He give you have security with God. That's interesting because in the Bible, God said very little to women. Very little did God say to women in the Bible. Very little. The angel of the Lord would appear to them, but there's very little that God, as you see how God would come to men and deal with men, you don't find that often with women in the Bible. As a matter of fact, God said very little to Sarah. Matter of fact, God said very little to Isaac. because he talked to Abraham. And it was his responsibility to tell them what God required. So even if God give me something awesome, I need somebody to give it to. I'm going to talk about your culture in a minute. It's going to help you too. Because a lot of y'all look just like you in your culture. I can tell by what I'm saying to you. Look in Proverbs 18 and 22, I believe. I want you to see this. It's going to bless your socks right off you. After a while, you ain't going to be looking for dinner dates no more. When you go out the house, you ain't going out looking any kind of way. You're going to fix yourself up. Because you could be discovered at any time. And you don't need to be looking your best when you don't need to be looking your worst when the best is looking for you. Because somebody know they can never be who they're supposed to be till they find you. Somebody know they can never do what they're supposed to do in life until they find you. So you need to be at your best at all times in life. Somebody ought to be shouting up in here. Y'all act like y'all even won't even. See, this culture don't even want God's way. We don't do things God's way. Every day of your life, you ought to be looking like the best God got can discover you at any moment. You not be at Walmart looking like Auntie Mama with a rag on your head because you want to run down there. And, I got to run to the store to get some eggs. No. That might be the moment that he find you. See, I ain't got no help up in here. And I know we're supposed to call those things that be not as those, but we don't need to call it, and if it don't have to be like that, fix it up like it's supposed to look. Look your best. Look your best every day of your life. Look your best everywhere you go. Expect the best out of life. Amen. If June boy come up with his pants pushed down, he ain't looking for me, not looking like that. If he got his drawers showing, they dirty. If he don't wash his, he ain't gonna wash yours. He ain't looking for me, not looking like that. That ain't what God told me to expect. I ain't got no help up in there. I might as well just shut up. I might as well shut up and get on back to Birmingham or somewhere. A lot of you ladies, you need God's perspective. You need a biblical perspective before you deal with a man. You're making a terrible mistake if you don't understand what God's deposit is, what God's purpose is in creating you. Amen. And you got to understand the shortage that we have. We don't have a shortage, but men have just walked away from God and act like they don't need God. So as a result, then you're the one that gets the short end of it. Because everything God gives him, the first place it comes is to you. And if you don't receive it, then it can't multiply. So everything about what's in his possession, he's limited to it. Amen. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. Amen. Don't get her based on how wide her hips is. A lot of women got big hips and nothing in their head. They don't even ask questions. They get intimate with strangers. They let somebody lie to them and tell them something that make them feel good for the moment and cause them to make crucial mistakes in their life. Don't get caught up because she got 2 biscuits on her chest. Well, I may as well wake you up because you act like you ain't want me to preach, so I just tell you some stuff to humor you and then maybe you'll help me preach real good, you know. You get to looking at all these little external flesh features, and we start thinking that that's the sum total of the person. The sum total of any person is not what you see with the physical eye. It is the internal deposit. It is the internal quality that person possessed, that God created them, carefully sculptured them, shaped them and molded them, and put, a deposit on the inside. The deposit is invisible. And if you don't understand what's invisible first, you could be very disappointed when you access the visible part of them. He that findeth the wife findeth the good thing. Watch this. And obtaineth favor from the Lord. When Bernard met you the day that God orchestrated that and brought the two of you in that moment together, when you began to dialogue and exchange and interact with each other, y'all met, became friends, spent a little more time together, then you start building a relationship. And then he started to discover that she's good, you good for me. Even if he didn't tell you. The mere fact that he kept trying to spend time with you, he discovered you good for me. Got it? See, and if he's a man of God, I ain't say a preacher, I said a man of God. God helped me last week. A lot of stuff I just didn't see. I just felt kind of dumb, in this. Listen, and then he realized I can get in a place in God and get some stuff that God got in place that I can't work for. If I access you right. See, you can obtain favor and not access it. Do you see it? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. He that findeth a wife, not a girlfriend. That ain't what he's looking for. Not a bed buddy. Wow. And obtaineth favor. And obtaineth favor with God. Favor is not what somebody's you're going to work for. Favor is what God grants you on the behalf of him. But he puts it in a person, and you become the account number, but God is the account. I'm talking about some folks here today. The woman becomes the account number. He obtained favor from the Lord, but the Lord is the account. He says, I'm the account. He says, I'm the source. Can you see that, Sister Grant? Listen to me. There's certain things Brother Grant can't get unless he go through you to God. When God was talking to Abraham, and when they come up with this plan, when it looked like God is taking too long, because God started talking at the age of 75 about this thing. This thing ain't going to manifest till they're 100 years old. And look like God delayed. But how can God be delayed when you already out of date anyway? If you already behind schedule, please tell me what's taking God so long here. People 75 just don't go around having babies, People 100 don't go around having babies. So when Abe started to talk to Sarah about what God said to him, because God went said in front of her. Because when God tell you things, he don't tell you in front of people. He tell you what he got to tell you. Yeah, preach, Reverend. Preach, Pastor, preach. Listen. Boy, that's good right there. I'm about to short off of that one. Listen here. Listen, when he started talking to Sarah about it, she laughed because she knew it was impossible. She said, ain't no way. Sure, they ain't even invented Viagra yet. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Abe I had to rub his knees down every night now with Bengay. Ain't no way. I got to put a heat pad on his back. Y'all trying to be all sanctified, trying to be all church. I'm trying to break the ice, man. I'm trying to get to the good part. Heck, at 50, you almost need Viagra. At 75, I know you need some. What's that other, Cialis? And somebody give me a couple of them things, man. Give me a couple of them. So, you get to be 75, ain't much heat in the furnace no more. The stack ain't got a lot of smoke coming out top of it now. ain't having much problem at your hormones. They sleep. So that's why she laughed. And God heard the laugh, and then God said, well, you know, Sarah laughed. He'd go and say, you know, God heard you laughing at him. I ain't laughed. Yes, you did. But the very next verse says this, is anything too hard for God? Because sometimes God has to wait till we run completely out of ourselves. Sometimes God really has to wait till we run complete. Like some of you, you keep dating bad folks. It don't mean everybody bad because you had 2 bad apples. It don't mean all men low down because you dealt with 3 who wasn't no good. Had you listened to God, you wouldn't have got intimate with them and dealt with them on that level. But there are times God brings you to a place where you run out, where he back your back up against a wall. Amen. He turned people, when his purpose is real for your life, he starts turning people away from you. Wow. Because he don't want them perverting your purpose. He turned their feet. Oh, that is good right there. Is anything too hard for God? And then God started talking about a set time. Started talking about an appointed time. Just because it hadn't happened don't mean it's not going to happen. And you may be thinking, well, you don't understand, Apostle. You already married. I'm 52. But it still doesn't mean that that husband is not going to find you. Because God is not going to let Satan have the last word in your life. If God don't give you but 3 years of marriage, he's going to make up for the 48 you were miserable. God can do more in 3 years, amen, and make up for 45 years of misery and disappointment in your life. Ain't got much. Is anything too hard for God? Because sometimes people be done lived and gone through things and they feel like there's no recovery. They feel like there's no possibility of a resurrection in my life. But I'm telling you, God can do more in a day with you than you've done without him a lifetime. He can fulfill more in your life in one day than you've done without him all your life. It is interesting because when the baby finally comes, and Lord and behold, before that one came, another one came. And then I need to give you this because I got to hurry on. And so they got together with the maid by the name of Hagar. And Abe and Sarah got together because plan A was taking too long. They implemented plan B. And plan B became a disaster because plan B was nothing but a mess. Amen. And when messes are created, it's because we substituted the miracle. And the miracle was in plan A. And they sell it for plan B, which was nothing but a mess. And just think, if you live in a house, a mess and a miracle can't live in under the same roof. So if you'll wait on God, God gonna manifest what he said. And sometimes it look like it's taking God a long time, but God got another way he can bless you. Because somebody else can make a mess out of something, and God will turn around and give you a miracle out of a mess that somebody else made. Do you know a lot of babies don't have mothers and fathers, but God takes somebody else and bless them with them? Because he put everything in you for everything necessary in the earth. Preach, Reverend. Preach, son. Preach, son. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So now this child is born by the name of Ishmael. Ishmael is 13 years old when Isaac is finally born. Amen. But we can't bring Isaac up in here when Ishmael lived here. So the command came from God, put them out. Because what was in your past should not be living in your present. And you think you're going to have a better future. God tell you, put out that stuff that hurts you. If a husband finds you, you still mad at the last 2 you dealt with. And you're going to punish the good for what the bad did. So God said you got to put that out of you before you can appreciate this moment that I've scheduled for your life. Put them out. It's interesting that when Isaac comes, and Isaac is a young man. Is a young man, and God called for Abraham to take him and sacrifice him. And I was all the years went back and said, well, okay, well, why God come back to Abraham and didn't go to Sarah? Because he knew Sarah wouldn't have wanted to give him up. Ain't nothing like a mother's love. God knew he'd have had to deal with that woman to get that son back she done waited 25 years for. See, she had nothing vested in Ishmael. Nothing. Although she was in on the plot, but she had nothing vested in Ishmael. So every time Abraham played with him, she got an attitude. Every time Hagar walked in the house, she got an attitude because she had nothing vested. She thought God was going to use Hagar as the channel to bring fulfillment to her life. Sometimes it's necessary for God to bypass our expectation because they are unreasonable. Something we believe God for, God don't do it because it wouldn't do nothing but take us away from him. I'm going to give you the good part. This is the ice-breaking part. Wow. Put them out. I'm going to still keep my word. I'm going to do what I said. Put them out. It must have been hard. Take your son, your only son. But he got another. No, that's his boy. This is his son. Amen. Did you hear that? That's his boy. This is his son. This is who he's the father. He dadded him. This is his seed. That's his secret. Wow. Put him out. Take your son, your only son, and take him to the mountain that I'm going to tell you of. Can you imagine he had to go in and tell you done waited all these years, and now he got to come in and tell you, you know what, God, I don't know whether it was God or whether it was Satan, but he told me to take Isaac to a mountain. You know Satan ain't told you to take him to no mountain. And he had to tell, and I'm willing to bet you, I wasn't there, and I'm no betting man, but I'm willing to bet you Abraham sneaked Isaac out of that house and didn't tell Sarah. Because the Bible says it's better to be up on the corner of a housetop than in the corner with a brawling woman. And he would have had to brawl with Sarah. Well, I ain't got no help up in here today. He would have had to brawl with Sarah to get Isaac out of that house. Boy, that's a revelation, right? Y'all don't even know when y'all hearing from God, half of y'all. You see that, God? You see that? I bet you he sneaked Isaac out of that house and didn't tell her God told me to bring him to the mountain. I bet he did. I bet he didn't go tell her what he finna do. I bet he told the servants, pack the wood and the animals and shut up. Don't make no noise. We're going to sneak out. If it was in our day, I bet he put the car in neutral and didn't crank it up and pushed it out the driveway and cranked it up when it got up the street. I bet he didn't crank the car up in the driveway because it would have woke her up. Pushed that mug out the driveway and then cranked it up and drove off. Well, hey, guys, I'm going to tell you, man, it's interesting, and I think all of us have to grow to a point because sometimes, we make foolish decisions. We don't really know the full value of who we are in covenant with. Sometimes we do crazy stuff, listening to our flesh sometimes. But even in Luke 1, do you know that the Bible said that even Mary